Good day, viewers. My name is Dr. Chris. I welcome you to today's class on index numbers. We shall be looking at introduction to index numbers. Beloved, as a chief lecturer in one of the most prestigious polytechnics in Nigeria, I have raised quite a number of students in various topics, and I hope you will learn a lot from today's topic, Introduction to Index Numbers. Now, before I go into the topic, once again, my YouTube channel is Dr. Chris Isekaibe, and my name is Dr. Chris Isekaibe. I'm a Nigerian. I am a chief lecturer in one of the most prestigious polytechnics in Nigeria. I hold a doctorate degree in mathematics with distinction. I also hold a master's degree in mathematics and a bachelor degree in statistics. What a good blend. And again, I specialize in numerical analysis, data modeling, and analysis. That is what I do. I also do a lot of statistical analysis. You can consult me with your statistical research work and also your work on numerical analysis and data analysis and modeling. In one of my previous videos, I did a topic on regression analysis. I did for linear regression analysis and multiple regression analysis. So if you want to contact me, peradventure you are an artificial intelligence firm or a research institute where you have mathematicians working, I can be part of your team of mathematicians or statisticians or numerical analysts or data analysts or data scientists that will form models or algorithms for artificial intelligence or machine learning. So I will be glad to hear from you. And my contact numbers are +234 80 330 21903. The second contact number is +234 70 6629 7535. My email address, you can reach me on my email or you can write me on my email, chrisdavids2015@gmail.com. These two numbers are WhatsApp numbers. You can also send me a WhatsApp message. I'm a member of the Nigerian Mathematical Society and also a member of the Nigerian Statistical Association. I've authored quite a number of books and I have international and national publications in reputable journals, and I've attended conferences both here in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So I'll be looking forward to hearing from you so that you can tap from my wealth of experience of over 20 years of teaching topics, various topics and areas in mathematics and statistics. God bless you. So please let me go into the topic of the day, Introduction to Index Numbers. Introduction to Index Numbers. What are index numbers? What are index numbers? The first thing we are going to be doing is to see how we can define index numbers. We have to know what index numbers are, and after a proper definition, we will now see how we can talk about the uses of index numbers, the characteristics of index numbers, and how we can apply them to our daily living. Now, by definition, index numbers are statistical devices designed to measure relative changes. They are statistical devices used, they are statistical devices used to measure or designed to measure the relative changes in certain variables. Used to measure relative changes in variables. So that's what we use. That's the number one definition of index numbers. We use index numbers to measure relative changes in certain variables. The variables can be two or more variables, and the values are measured quantitatively. So they are measured quantitatively. By now, you should understand what we mean by quantitative data. Quantitative data are data that can be measured, so they are measured and values are involved. So we use index numbers for measurement. For instance, we can measure the prices of commodities, e.g. prices of commodities, we can also measure the volume of trade, production, or imports, exports, and so on and so forth. We can also use it to study and to measure cost of living. We can use index numbers to measure cost of living, foreign exchange reserves, It can be used to do so many things. Sales, so profit, we can also use it to measure sales, so profit, and so on and so forth. So the topic index numbers cannot be overemphasized. It is as important for national development, and we use them as economic barometers to study certain activities in the national income of a country, the wage structure of workers in various sectors, foreign exchange, reserve, cost of living, and the rest of them. So index numbers are very, very useful. They are very, very useful. So it is also used to study, to compare prices. It is used for comparison. Now, since we have understood what the definition of index numbers is, the major essence of index number is to measure relative changes in various things, commodities, prices of commodities, volume of trade. You can compare the results or the volume of 1 year with that of another year. Then you study the changes and study the reasons behind such changes. So this is the definition of index numbers. Permit me to clean the board so that we can look at the characteristics of index numbers. So that by the time you start calculating, it's very, very important for national development. You cannot measure, for instance, standard of living, the growth of an economic development in a particular nation without the use of index numbers. You will be able to tell how the growth, whether there is improvement or decrease. Now let us look at the characteristics of index numbers. It's very easy to say. Number one characteristics of index numbers is that index numbers are expressed in percentages. For you to understand it, one, index numbers, they are expressed in percentages. Of course, you know what percentages are upon 100, so it is easier to interpret. And another characteristic of index numbers is that they measure changes, whether directly or indirectly. Two, they are used to measure changes in variables. Then, thirdly, so for instance, if the price of a certain commodity is increasing, we'll study the amount of changes in that particular variable. Now, thirdly, index numbers are used for comparison. They are used for comparison. So you can compare the results from last year with that of this year and see which year has a better performance in terms of economy, in terms of in different sectors of government, and that means without index numbers, it will be difficult to take certain decisions. And they help you to study groups, they also help you to study decrease, and so on and so forth. So index numbers are specialized averages. Of course, you know what an average is. They are specialized averages. So what is an average? So index numbers are specialized averages. An average is a summary figure used to measure the central tendency of a set of data. So an index number can also be classified as an average. It can be classified as a specialized average. So index numbers are statistical techniques. They are used in measuring composite changes. We can also use them to, as we progress, composite changes. That means it means changes in many variables per time. You can study the changes in many variables per time. You can study changes in a single variable per time. So that is what these are the characteristics. So when index numbers are calculated, that's why you see each calculation is multiplied by 100. They are expressed in percentages. So when they are expressed in percentages, they are very easy to explain. They are very easy to interpret. So these are the characteristics of index numbers. We are looking at part one of it today, the introductory part of index numbers. As we progress, we will come up with the part two, we shall be looking at various calculations. Now, as it involves certain areas of living. Now, permit me to claim this part. We have talked about the characteristics of index numbers. Now, we want to see the uses or importance of index numbers. You can call it uses stroke importance. Uses stroke importance. Uses stroke importance of index numbers. So we'll be taking them, we'll be itemizing them, and be explaining them as we progress. Number one is that index numbers, it helps to study trends, stroke tendencies. What do you mean by this? If, for instance, you are studying the prices of a particular commodity year in, year out, index numbers will help you study the pattern of the trend. Is the price of that particular commodity increasing over the years, or is there any fluctuation? Is it steadily increasing? Is it steadily decreasing? What are the factors responsible? So it helps us to study trends. Trend, it can be increasing pattern, it can be in decreasing pattern, it can also be in fluctuating pattern. What we mean by fluctuating is that it may rise up in a particular year and the price drops again the next year, drops again the other year, and goes up again the third year. So there are reasons for fluctuations. So number one use of index numbers is that it helps to study trends and tendencies. Number two, it helps in formulating decisions and policies. Number two, it helps in formulating decisions stroke policies. Now, when we talk about decision making, it's a very good thing in business. Business managers, government organization, top government economists, they need index number for them to make quality decision in certain areas. If, for instance, the price of a commodity is just increasing and increasing, there are certain factors that may be responsible. The job of index numbers is to show us that this particular commodity is increasing steadily in price. That means certain things or factors may be responsible, and further research will be done to study those factors responsible and see how the prices can be stabilized. Now, another use of index numbers is that they are used as economic barometers. They are economic barometers. Of course, you can use it to measure the growth of an economy. Like, for instance, we talk about the standard of living or the cost of living. The cost of living can be measured using index numbers, and this form tells us whether an economy is growing or an economy is declining. So index numbers will reveal it. So they study the growth of an economy with certain data that are involved. So when index numbers are calculated year in, year out, for a few years you will be able to know whether the economy has really grown or the economy has really declined in certain areas. So they are used as economic barometers. Then another use of index numbers, it measures purchasing power of money. Index numbers, they are used to measure purchasing power of money. Now, if a particular currency is losing its value, it can be traced using index numbers. They are used to study or to measure the purchasing power of money. Changes, you agree with me that changes in prices and purchasing power of money are inversely related. I come again. Changes in prices and purchasing power, as the prices are increasing, the purchasing power is decreasing. That is what we mean. they are inversely related. If the price of a commodity is just increasing unreasonably, it will be detected by our index numbers. When you calculate the index number, that means the purchasing power of that currency will be decreasing. So it means that changes in prices of commodities and purchasing power of any currency or of purchasing power of money, they are inversely related. So an increase in the general price indicates that the purchasing power of money has gone down. So when there is an increase in the general price of commodities, this indicates that the purchasing power of money has gone down. So the purchasing power of money is calculated as the purchasing power of money is calculated as purchasing power is equal to 1 over general prices, 1 over general price index, 1 over general price index times 100 over 1. So you can see that it's given in percentage. It is given in percentage. We can just quickly take a quick example and calculate the purchasing power of a particular currency. We can choose dollars, for instance. If we give an example as this, assuming if the consumer price index for a given year is $350, assuming for a particular year, we are assuming it's not a real life data we are using now, so that the audience will be able to know how to calculate the purchasing power of any currency. Assuming the consumer price index, if the consumer price index, if we assume it to be equal to $350, then the purchasing power of a dollar, the purchasing power, now we use this general price index is also known as the consumer price index. So the purchasing power will be equal to 1 upon 350 times 100 all over 1, and that is going to give us 0.29. Now, how do you interpret this? This is the general price index, which is written as the consumer price index. So we got that this indicates by interpretation of this 0.29, it indicates that the purchasing power of a dollar in that given year is 29 cents. So the purchasing power for that year is, you say now, you have this that be multiplied. Of course, you know, 100 cents is $1. So is the purchasing power of a dollar in that particular year is given as 29 cents as compared to the base year. So the purchasing power for that year for a dollar is 29 cents. That is what it means. That is interpretation. So you can see the consumer price index of a particular year is $350. Now we can calculate the purchasing power and it has been calculated. It's 1 all over the consumer price index, or you can call it the general price index, multiplied by 100 over 1, and you have this is in cents, because 100 cents gives us $1. So the purchasing power for that year of the purchasing power for that year of $1 is 29 cents. Is 29 cents. So as compared to the base year. So we should be able to understand that. Now we take one more importance of index numbers. Permit me to claim the first two, and that will be the fifth one. That's the fifth item, because we are itemizing the usage stroke importance of index numbers. So the next one is that index numbers tells us the changes in real wages. Number 5 now, it tells us the changes, or the change in real wages. Tells us the change in real wages. In real wages. So it really means that when this is done, it can be used to study or control the cost of living. It can be used to study or control the cost of living. So when the changes in real wages are calculated using index numbers, it will definitely reveal the cost of living. It will reveal the cost of living. So increase in price of goods will also go a long way to affect the cost of living of the citizens. So permit me to claim this part since you have written them. So now you can see how we have been able to calculate the purchasing power of a currency using index numbers. Now, the cost of living index can also be calculated from this. So, if you want to get your real wage will now be equal to money wage over consumer price index. It will now be money wage over consumer price index times 100 over 1. Index numbers are always given in percentage. So times 100 over 1. So the real wages, or you can call it the real wage, is given by the money wage all over the consumer price index times 100 over 1. So this is how, these are the 5 uses stroke importance of index numbers. So when it tells us the real wages, now it is your real wage that determines your standard of living. And if the prices of commodities are higher and wages are not increased, definitely the standard of living of the citizens will be affected. So now this is how you calculate the real wage. You have to get the money wage over the consumer price index, then you multiply it by 100, because index numbers are always given in percentages. Now, this takes us to the types of index numbers that we have. Types of index numbers. Permit me to write it. Types of index numbers. They are economic barometers. You want to study the growth of an economy or the economy of a nation, index numbers must be involved. It must be involved. You want to study the prices in commodities, it must be involved. Export rate, exchange rate, and so on and so forth, import, export, production, profit, sales, and so on and so. You want to compare them year in, year out, then index numbers must be involved. So you can see how this topic plays a very vital role in our economy and our day-to-day living. So types of index numbers now, we shall be looking at types of index numbers. Types of index numbers. Number one type is the price index numbers. One, price index numbers. That's the number one that we have. This tries to study the trend in prices. We have what we call the wholesale price index numbers and the retail price index numbers. So the wholesale price index numbers reflect the changes in the general price level of a country. So we have it in wholesale form and in retail form. So under the price index numbers, we have the wholesale price index numbers. I'm talking about the type of price index numbers that we have. We have the wholesale price index numbers, and this wholesale price index number is what reflects the changes in the general price level of a particular country. Then the number two, we have the retail price index numbers. We have the retail price index numbers. And thirdly, because there are three types, and thirdly, this C part is the consumer's price index numbers. The consumer price index numbers. And this one is known as the cost of living index. The consumer price index numbers is known as the cost of living index. So the another name for the consumer price index numbers, it can be calculated. It will tell you the cost of living of the citizens of a particular country. It's a kind of retail price index number also. Then the number two type of index number is quantity index numbers. Number two, remember number one is price index numbers, and we have three types of price index numbers: the wholesale price index numbers, the retail price index numbers, and the consumer price index numbers, also known as the cost of living index numbers. So when we talk about number two is the quantity index numbers. Quantity index numbers. So the quantity index numbers studies the volume of goods produced, distributed, and consumed. It studies the volume of goods produced, you can say produced or manufactured, the volume of goods produced and produced, distributed, and consumed. Distributed and consumed. That is what the quantity index numbers are. That is what they do. They are used to study the volume of goods produced, how they are distributed, and how they are consumed. Example of this are we have indices of agricultural production, industrial production, indices of, the plural of indices, indices. So we have indices of agri production, e.g., we have e.g. indices of agricultural production, of import, exports, and so on and so forth. So that is what the quantity index number, that's what they do. Then the third type of index numbers is value index numbers. Value index numbers. These value index numbers, they intend to study changes in total value, price, multiplied by quantity. So it studies total value of prices multiplied by quantities. Prices multiplied by quantities. So we are looking at the value, it studies the changes in the total value of output, e.g. indices of retail sales, profits, inventions, and so on and so forth. So these are the three types of index numbers that we have. We have the price index numbers. The price index numbers are divided into three: the wholesale price index numbers, the retail price index numbers, the consumer price index numbers. The consumer price index numbers is also known as the cost of living index. Then we have the quantity index. This one has to do with the production of goods or manufacturing of goods that are produced, distributed, and consumed. Example is in the area of agriculture, indices of agricultural production, and of course the third one is the value index numbers. So those are the three types of index numbers that we have. So now permit us to go into practical calculations. Please, I hope you have taken note of these. I want to clear the board so that we can go into practical implementation of how index numbers can be calculated. We want to go into practical calculation. These things are real. They use it in real life situations. Economic experts, economists, statisticians, we use this. That is why you can see when a government has an advisor on economic matters, that advisor should be knowledgeable on all these, how these things are calculated. That's why you see some countries we have Federal Office of Statistics. Statistics is very, very vital because the techniques of index numbers are techniques used in statistics. They are used for measurement. They are used for comparison. Are you getting that? They are used to study trends. They are used to study tendencies and so on and so forth. So now we shall be looking at these various types. The first one is the price index numbers. So now we shall be looking at how to calculate. Now we want to see how we can calculate. The first step is the simple index numbers. How we can calculate a simple index number. Now we shall start with simple price index numbers first before we go to simple quantity index numbers. So now let's start with the price. Under this we can call it a simple price index numbers. Now If I have, for instance, if I have the formula is given as P subscript O1 is now equal to P1 all over P subscript 0 times 100 all over 1. What do I mean by this? For instance, we want to compare the prices of a particular commodity. This commodity was sold for 2 years interval. So we have what we call the base year and the current year. Now this 0 here stands for the base year and this 1 here stands for the current year. So likewise, the B part is for the simple quantity index numbers, or let's call it number. This one is written as Q01 is equal to Q1, Q subscript 1, let me write it better, Q subscript 1 all over Q subscript 0 times 100 all over 1. One of the characteristics, we were told that index numbers are always given in 100%. Now, the base year, you are comparing prices of a particular commodity. The commodity is one for 2 years, maybe 2004 and 2005, or between 2004 and 2005, or between 2003 and 2004. Now let us take an example. An example is given as this. Given the price stroke quantity data of meat in kg and prices in dollars. So the table below, this particular table shows we have the year, we have the price is in P, and we have the quantities, and the quantities is in kg. So you have this, just take a look at it easily. Then the first year is 2023. For 2023, and these prices are in dollars. The prices are in dollars, so we should know this is $10, and the quantity is 15 kg. Then in 2024 is now that's risen to $12 and is now 16 kg. Then in 2025 it has risen to $13 and is now 18 kg. It's now 18 kg. So you can see from here we can study the price index number, the simple price index number between the year 2023 and 2024. We can also study the simple price index number between the year 2024 and 2025. We can also study the simple quantity index number for those particular years. Now, permit me to go into the calculation. Now, for simple price index, the base year for this one is 2023, and the current year, you can take 2024 or 2025 as the current year. So permit me to go into calculation so that you will understand this thing better. Now the first thing I want to do, I want to calculate the simple price index number for year 2024 using 2023 as a base year. You can compare between 2 years Now I will call it P. You can give this as signal. This will be, you can take this as 0, this as 1, and this as 2. You can give it, so the base year is always 0, then the next one according to the years. So now I want to have P01. That means I want to compare year 20, the price index of year 2023 and that of year 2024. So I'm going to have P1. I'm going to have P1 all over P0 times 100 all over 1. And how do I go about it? Now for the prices, what is P1 is the current year now. I'm comparing that of 2023 and 2024. So my current year is 2024 and the price is 12. So P1 will be 12 all over P0 is the base year, which is 10 all over 10 times 100 all over 1. So when you do that arithmetic, you are going to have 120%. You can see how interesting it is. So now we have to interpret. So by this indicates a 20%. So because 120 is 20% above 100. So you are going to interpret it on the level of 100%. If it is below 100%, for instance, if it is 80 that you have calculated, and the difference between 81 and 100 is 20%, so it has reduced by 20%. So that means this indicates that the price, that means, okay, this indicates a 20% increase in the price of meat in 2024, using 2023 as the base year. That is the interpretation. So 2023 is the base year. So from 2023 it has increased by 20%. Now if I want to calculate, if I want to use, for instance, 2024 as the base year, I want to calculate the price index for 2020, the simple price index for year 2025 using 2024 as a base year. So I will just simply write it as a code. These are codes to understand out of the year. So the previous comes before the current. So I will now have the price index as P12. That means the price index number of year 2025 using year 2024 is 1. Subscript 1, 2025 is here. So the one after is 2. So we are calculating the price index numbers for year 2025 using year 2024 as a base year. So this will now be equal to P2 all over P1 times 100 all over 1. And this will now be equal to our P2 is 13. The price for 2025 is 13 all over, for 2024 is 12. Then times 100 all over 1. So doing this simple arithmetic, you are going to have 100 and you are going to have 108.3%. 108.3%. You see that? So that's what you are going to have. You have 108.3%. Now it is 8.3% above 100. It can be below 100. It can, the price can go, the percentage can go below 100. It can go above 100. For instance, let me explain this. If I calculate and I have 87%, for instance, if I have 87%, what does this mean? You know, 87 is 13 below 100. So the gap is that, so 100 minus 87 is 13. So it means that there is 13% price decrease. That is what that interpretation. So if it goes below 100, then a percent, there is a decrease. If it goes above 100%, there is an increase in price. If it is exactly 100%, the price remains the same. We are not talking about quantities yet. We are talking about prices. So if it is above 100, then there is an increase in price. So this indicates 8.3% increase of meat increase in year 2025. So the price has gone up by 8.3%. That is the interpretation. So that's why we will also look at the quantity index number. How to calculate? You can see the quantities are here. In year 2023 is 15 kg. In year 2024 is 16. In year 2025 is 18, and so on and so forth. So permit me to clean that of the price index, and we'll go to the quantity, simple quantity index numbers. These things are relatively cheap. These are simple. We are doing it for one commodity. This commodity now is meat that was sold in dollars, and the quantities recorded in kilograms. That's what we are looking at. So if I want to calculate the first quantity index for 2024, so quantity index for 2024, then using 2023 as base year. It's as simple as that. So I will call it Q0. Okay, it's capital. It's Q01 is equal to Q1 all over Q0 times 100 all over 1. So the main index is represented with capital letter. Then in the formula they are used as small letters. You should understand. So for 2024, the quantity is 16. So this will be equal to 16 all over for 2023, which is the base year, is 15 times 100 all over 1. And that is equal to, if you say 16 over 15 times 100, it will be 106.7%. So 106.7%. What does this mean? This indicating 6.7% increase in 2024. It's as simple as that. In quantity now, that is what it means. So there's a 6.7% increase. Now, also, if I want to calculate the quantity index for 2025, of course, I will now have it as P, using 2024 as base year. So using 2024 as base year. It's as simple as that. I'll just come and have Q1 to Q1 is equal to Q2 all over Q1 times 100 all over 1, and that is now equal to our Q2 for year 2025 is 18 all over, for year 2024, which is the base year that we are using now, is 16. Now we are comparing. We told you that index numbers can be used for comparison. So we are comparing the prices and putting them in percentages. So you are going to have 18 over 16 times 100 over 1. That is 112.5%. That is equal to 112.5%. So this is indicating now it is 12.5% above 100, 12.5% increase in the quantity of meat in kg. As simple as that. This is the beauty of index number. So we have been able to calculate simple index numbers, that is the simple price index numbers, the simple quantity index numbers. Now quickly, we want to look at what we call the composite index numbers. Composite. Now the difference between the simple index numbers and the composite index numbers is that the simple index numbers is confined to only one commodity. Look at it now, this commodity for 3 different years. We looked at the prices and the quantities of meat. It was meat in kg that was considered in this example. So the simple index numbers is confined to only one commodity, while the composite index number takes care of several commodities. So that's why we want to look at the composite index numbers. The composite, that's number 2. We have looked at the simple price index, simple index numbers. We have 2 types, the price index, simple price index numbers, and the simple quantity index numbers. So the number 2 is the composite index numbers. That's what we shall be looking at next. We have looked at the simple index numbers. Now what we mean by composite, this takes care of several variables. It takes care of several variables. So you should know that. It takes care of several variables. So the first thing we shall look at how to calculate, number 1, okay, before we go into that, let us solve an example or a problem. So we shall be looking at the simple aggregate price stroke quantity index. So we shall calculate the simple aggregate price index numbers, and we shall also calculate the simple aggregate quantity index number. So now there is an example here. Let us call it example 2. Given the price stroke quantity data with prices in dollars and quantities in kg. So we have this table. So let's call it example 2. The first one was example 1, if you wish. So from this table, we are looking at 3 different commodities: meat, chicken, and fish for years 2024 and 2025. We want to compare the quantities and also to say compare the aggregate. We want to calculate the simple aggregate price index and the simple aggregate quantity index. Now let us go. So we have the items. Then from the items we have the prices. Of course, from the prices we have 2024, 2025. Then from prices we have the quantities. Quantities of course is in kg. It's in kg. So we have also for 2024 and 2025. So these are the headings. And maybe to roll it. Then order the items. You will see under the items, the first item there is meat, chicken, and fish. You have meat, chicken, and fish. So these are the three items. Then of course, you roll a line. Now, for your 2025, we have the prices for meat 12, for chicken 14, and for fish 10. Then for 2025, we have 13 for meat, 16 for chicken, and 11 for fish. Then for the quantities, we can use a line to separate this. We have 16 for meat, 17 for chicken, and 12 for fish. Then for 2025, we have 18, 19, and 13. So we are going to sum them up. Now, I'm going to do it this way. Now, the total for so this one for the prices for fish for 2024, you can call it, okay, let me do it this way. Let me do it this way. So we have 2024, it's known as the P0 as the base year. Then we have 2025, and it's known as the P1. So this one, 2024 for quantities, is known as the Q0. Then 2025 quantities is known as the Q, call it Q1, subscript 1. So you can put it in bracket. It's good you put them in bracket. Put them in bracket like that. So that's how we distinguish them. So we have the prices. We have the prices and the quantities. Now, the first thing we need to do is to get the totals. 12 plus 14 plus 10 is 36. 13 plus 16 plus 11 is 40. 16 plus 17 plus 12 is 45. Then 18 plus 19 plus 13 is 50. So that is what you have there. So now, this is how we calculate the composite index numbers. They are of two types. One will be for the prices, then the other will be for the quantities. So I call number A the simple aggregate price index. Simple aggregate price index for 2025, using 2024 as a base year. So its comparison now is in aggregate form, because the composite index numbers takes care of several commodities, while the simple index numbers takes care of one commodity. So now this formula is given as P01, that is the price index for the current year using a base year. Because it is aggregate, it will be summation. We are going to have summation P1 all over summation P0 times 100 all over 1. So the P1 is the current year. So our current year is 2025. Then the P0, of course, the base year, which is 2024. So we want to compare or calculate the composite index numbers for these three commodities for year 2025 using 2024 as a base year. So this will not be equal to the sum of the one for 2025 is 40 all over. The sum for 2024 is 36. Of course, again times 100 all over 1. I hope you have taken this formula. So by the time you have that, 40 over 36 times 1 over 1 will be equal to 111.1%. What does this indicate? So this now indicates 11.1% increase for the three commodities in year 2025, increase in 2025 for these three commodities. So generally that is 11.1%. I told you if it is above 100, there is an increase in price or in quantity. If it is below 100, there is a decrease. That particular difference between the index number and 100 will either form the percentage increase or the percentage decrease. So because 111.1% is 11.1% above 100, so there is an increase, 11.1% increase in 2025 for these three commodities: meat, chicken, and fish. So when you see statisticians or economists talking about the prices of foodstuff have gone up, and it is so percent, it is 25% increase. The bag of rice has gone up. A bag of rice sold last year for a particular amount, and this year is now sold for a particular amount. It has gone up by a certain percentage. So it is index numbers that we use to carry out all this analysis. So you can see that for these three commodities, there is 11.1% increase in year 2024, year 2025 using 2024 as a base year. Now let us look at the B part. Please take note of this. The B part of it, we are looking at the simple aggregate quantity index. Simple aggregate quantity index. Please permit me to clear this part. Simple aggregate quantity index. Simple aggregate quantity index. So I will change this price here to quantity. Simple aggregate quantity index, and is given as usual is Q01 is equal to summation Q1 all over summation Q0. So we are using 2025 as the current year, so we want to calculate the simple aggregate quantity for these three commodities because composite index numbers deal with several variables or several commodities as compared with the simple index numbers. So we are having these times 100 all over 1. So the summation, so for 2025, that's our Q1, the sum of the quantities in kilogram is 50 all over. For 2024, that's our base year, is 45, then times 100 all over 1, and that will give us how many percentage? Also 111.1%, 111.1%. So you can see 111.1%. So this now indicates, so it must be interpreted. The result must be interpreted. This indicates 11.1% increase for the three commodities in year 2025. Of course, 2024 as compared with that of 2024. So beloved, you have seen how index numbers are calculated. This is the part 1, I call it the introductory part of index numbers. We have seen how to calculate simple index numbers and composite index numbers, both for prices and for quantities. I believe you have you waited patiently to the end of this class, and as you do, I believe you must have learned 1 or 2 things. So we shall have another video to look at the part 2 of index numbers. I will be coming up with different calculation. So we saw the definition of index numbers, the characteristics of index numbers. They are given in percentages, they are used to measure changes in variables, and so they are specified averages, and so on and so forth. Then we now saw the importance of uses of index numbers, how they are used as to calculate trends, to study trends and tendencies, and then also as economic barometer, and so on and so forth. We can use them to calculate to study our standard of living or cost of living, and so on and so forth. Beloved, my name remains Dr. Chris Isekaibe, a chief lecturer in one of the most prestigious polytechnics in Nigeria. I am a researcher. I have a PhD in mathematics and a master's degree in mathematics and a bachelor degree in statistics. I specialize in numerical analysis, data analysis and modeling, statistical analysis. You can consult me with your research work if peradventure you are an artificial intelligence firm or unit where you do a lot of work for artificial intelligence. You can consult me so that I can work with your team of mathematicians and statisticians to bring up new models through algorithms for artificial intelligence. Or peradventure you are a research institute in any nation of the world. I do my job speaking and writing in English language. I can be part of your research team to add to what you are doing. As a result of my wealth of knowledge over the past 20 years, I've been teaching courses in statistics and mathematics. I've taught in university. I have university experience, and I also taught in A-level colleges where I taught Cambridge A-level mathematics and also mathematics in IFG, International Foundation Group, and the OSSD, the Ontario Diploma, where I taught advanced calculus and advanced functions. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. Chris Isekaibe. Click on the notification button so that each time I upload a new video, you have a notification. And as you do, God will bless you. Expect my next video, and as you do, God will bless you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.